Day 819 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So, starting off, we'll take a look at the Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 497,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,330 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, 11 tanks, 27 APVs, a whopping 40 artillery, plus another air defense system. And no shortage of vehicles and tankers either, with 71 of the tin cans destroyed in the past day as well. Oh, and not the least of which from all of these stats today is the one additional Russian Su-25 aircraft shot down in the Pokrovsk direction in the past day. So we'll head to the map and start out in Ukraine today, in the occupied part of the Donetsk region, as a missile strike rocked the location of Mospine. Because in this latest series of events, we saw that Ukrainian missiles targeted a Russian S-400 air defense system in the area. Included in the wreckage was one radar, two launcher units, and a third launcher unit heavily damaged, and likely one command post vehicle on top of that as well. All as a result of cluster attackums, with one of those wreckage pieces on display, with a packet of cigarettes on top for some reason too. And events like these can get quite costly for Russia, with starting off the radar unit, an upgraded radar unit at that, costing about $35 million apiece. And also each of the TEL launchers and the command post at about 20 to 25 million apiece. So you're looking at about 100 million of losses for Russia right here. And only made more costly by the fact that there is a decent chance all of this is irreplaceable and not able to be manufactured again due to Western sanctions and these being loaded with Western tech. Now, to be fair, I should say that the ATACMS missiles are about 800,000 or $1 million a piece. But due to hundreds of them about to expire or literally just expired, and otherwise sitting in warehouses for a quarter of a century, then from a military standpoint, that would be just incredible value for money. With the actual cost, or minuscule cost in this particular situation, more to do with simple transporting costs instead. So all in all, this attack demonstrates Ukraine's newfound resolve to degrade the occupying forces' defensive measures in the ongoing conflict, which, on the flip side, we rarely try to see things from the other side, as I can only imagine the significantly degraded levels of morale for the Russian military due to this latest event. Then just headed a bit north on the map from there, as Russian forces are still engaged to the east of Chasiv Yar, as they continue operations with the goal of reaching the canal and beyond, or as a starting point solidify their positions up to the canal and then beyond. And so, as a quick recap, topographically speaking, the terrain isn't great for the Russian side. Now, I'm not just speaking about the canal, of course, but on the western Chasiv Yar side, it's effectively higher ground within the town itself compared to the Russian incursions or positions in the east. Now, depending on any upcoming Russian success, for instance, they would likely choose as one method to attempt to access the town through land bridges that are not obstructed by the canal at two major points, roughly 600 meters wide each, or about 2,000 feet wide each. Though it is fair to say with some level of certainty that should they attempt to break through at one of those points, or even both, it would be under heavy and very precise artillery fire. And in this case, I use the term precise about artillery fire because it's a near impossibility that Ukrainian artillerists haven't already made the appropriate shelling calculations at those specific choke point locations. Also, a lot can be said for some very robust defensive landmine setups combined with anti-tank ditches and some level of air support and overhead FPV drone usage, but also snipers and mortar fire, among many other things, being options at the AFU's disposal. So it appears that in all of those events that Russia would choose to use shock troops or infantry-based assaults in attempts to break ground, which in turn, of course, would mean it would be potentially very attritional for them. But only time will tell how things even play out here, with various reports now suggesting that some level of increased artillery supplies are starting to make their way through to the AFU units on the ground. Oh, and since we're in this location, I'll make mention of one such event that we saw, of a failed Russian mechanized attack east of Chasiv Yar, using a T-90M tank and 2 BMPs, the infantry fighting vehicles. So the T-90M tank was equipped with 2 night cameras, the night vision cameras, and tried to pave the way for the 2 BMPs. And as you can see with the T-90 tank, which probably initially gave the small Russian offensive a bit of confidence, was later seen abandoned and later after that, destroyed. But perhaps the most interesting part in all of this that I should have left for a later Russian hardware or funny segment was the fact that we saw non-standard equipment on the T-90, 2 night vision CCT cameras on top, which the tankers probably ripped off from a local street not far away. Meanwhile, I'm scratching my head wondering why Russia's most recently produced and most upgraded tank was missing night vision capabilities in the first place, or seemingly any already installed optics. Then taking a look around the map, because somewhere in the east, north and south, images emerged from the fallout of a Russian Tiger M armoured vehicle that blew up on an anti-tank mine. Then also in the east, an interesting case of a meeting in the sky between a Ukrainian FPV drone and a Russian Ka-52 helicopter. So the Ukrainian drone operator, becoming aware of the inbound chopper, said that they made an attempt to catch it before the flyby, but was without success in this close encounter. One upset drone, I'd say. Then also in the east, we saw a destroyed Russian BTR-82 in the Donetsk region. And in this instance, the APC wasn't destroyed from an anti-tank mine, as instead this one came from above, rigged up and ready to go. Although I should clarify there, it didn't actually run over an anti-tank mine, but instead was dropped from a Ukrainian drone in the sky. Then headed a little bit west as there was a bit of activity in the Zaporizhia region in the last day with an explosion of some kind in Bryansk, which used to get hit all the time by drones and storm shadows. As a result, the airmen and Southern Command have pretty much long since been forced to leave that location. Then also for the region, we saw a Ukrainian heavy drone of the Baba Yaga type destroy a Russian BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle, so engine on the right, bonnet on the left. Then further west again to the Russian-held territory of the Kherson region. Now, starting off, there has been some slight changes in the movements or positions that the Ukrainian forces have held, particularly in Krinky. It's said that they've actually moved to a safer location, but still on the south bank, but looking for more information on that front there. But we also saw a missile strike hit near to the Ladkivka forest. And I'll just pop in the coordinates there for that one. There it is. Which ignited a massive blaze, with the intensity of the fire suggesting significant damage to enemy positions or equipment, dealing a further blow to their presence in the region. Then headed across to some news for today. So Sweden has pledged a substantial military aid package to Ukraine for the years of 2024 through 2026, allocating 75 billion Swedish kroners, or about 6.5 billion euros, of which this support, of about 2.2 billion euros per annum, will bolster Ukraine's defensive capabilities in their ongoing struggle against Russian aggression. A very good effort from Sweden. Then as for a quick homegrown Ukrainian platform hardware update, as here we see the testing of another variant of a Ukrainian ground drone with a bit of fun. So something like this could have many use cases, but not the least of which is sending supplies to the front or even possibly providing assistance with medical evacuations. Then headed across to some Russian hardware news. Now do note, first of all, I almost put this next piece in the funny section because although at first glance you see here Russian supplies rolling through the Tula region of Russia to the front lines of Ukraine on a cargo train with 4 bridge layers, 16 trucks, 2 APVs, 2 IFVs, 1 SPG and 1 tank. where many of which have the new Kharkiv operations insignia on them, which is a whole other story because the insignia both looks like and acts like a bullseye target. But the most fascinating thing in all of this was the half a dozen modern Kamaz 6x6 infantry mobility vehicles getting sent to the front, which were literally still carrying the ribbon of St. George decals on the side, same as the ones we saw at Russia's May 9th Victory Day parade from the 42-odd vehicles we saw present on the day. And so these decals are specific to World War II parades that symbolize Russian bravery, and as such, you only see them at the most special of Russian military parades, like Russia's May 9th World War II Victory Day parade from just 2 weeks ago. And so you might choose to argue that, playing devil's advocate, that these vehicles are not going to the front. But then I might ask, then why did these shiny parade vehicles specifically get the new Kharkiv insignia bullseye targets sprayed all over them so messily and nonchalantly? Well, it's because some Russian commander in the Kharkiv direction outranks some other Russian officer dealing in logistics and supply, and thus ordering to, or should I say yelling, to send more vehicles to the front. So does that mean we're going to see the T-34 World War II tank as well? I don't know. You see, Russia has an issue with backing down, and they'd rather tend to just double down instead, because they have no exit strategy. And true to say, we've seen parade vehicles sent to the front lines many times before out of sheer Russian desperation, and every time that happens, the annual Russian military parades get pathetically smaller and smaller every single year. Then headed to some more news, and I wanted to mention this piece a few days ago, but during a UN Security Council meeting, the Russian ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, cynically claimed that without Western aid, the conflict in Ukraine would have ended sooner. He also stated that peace talks should consider quote-unquote new territorial realities. So he was basically saying, or sending the message out that, just don't defend your own lands and accept any new territorial realities that Russia sees fit arbitrarily. Okay, so apart from being impractical, a methodology like that for the rest of the world sounds like it's just going to lead to many more wars. Now, in response, US Representative Robert Wood highlighted that over 140 UN General Assembly countries have condemned Russia's attacks on Ukraine and demanded the immediate withdrawal of Russian troops. He also noted that Russian forces receive weapons from the likes of Iran and North Korea, as confirmed by UN experts who identified the wreckages from a North Korean Hwasong-11 missile used in a Kharkiv attack, and of course the Iranian-produced Shahed drones that we all too well know at this point already. Then headed across to a quick funny to round it all off today, guys. So, at an exhibition in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region, Russian Prime Minister Mishustin was shown new cars of the revived Russian Volga brand. Although there was some concerns from the Prime Minister. As you can perhaps somewhat visibly see, a frustrated Mishustin, who had forgone the opportunity to make a propaganda piece out of it all, to instead him having made some squabbles about every component being Chinese made. Even the steering wheel, which he said should at least be Russian made, then going so far as to calling for localizing production of at least those parts. Like that of the steering wheels, that are not as technologically complex to manufacture. Almost an anti-propaganda piece. And hey, make no mistake, this is a 100% Chinese manufactured car with a Russian car badge, which was probably also made in China. And we've already seen Russia try to advertise their new car models as 100% Russian, only to find out they were in fact 100% Chinese. Russia is a Chinese colony. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe if not already, as I like to say there. Thanks again for all the support. I do notice it all, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.